Salutations everyone and welcome to another Quest for a Main, episode 8 I believe this is, Pit. So Pit was the 8th character I considered picking up in this game because I had a little bit of success with him. He's not a difficult character to pick up and play. He's quite simplistic, and that's kind of the pro and con of Pit as at his core character. He's an all-around character. He's like, we all know that Mario is an all-around character, how Mario is, pretty good at everything. Well, Pit is just okay at everything. He's not great at anything and not terrible at really anything. And that kind of does just show where he is on everyone's tier list. A lot of people consider Pit, or maybe not a lot, but a few people consider Pit to be like the most neutral, the most balanced, the most, middle of the road character in the game. And because of this, he doesn't have huge lacking strengths. Obviously his up B can go really far, but it doesn't have a hitbox, and you can edge guard him relatively easily. He has all those jumps, but at really high percents, he's going to be forced to do it, and you have a lot of things at your disposal, depending on your character, to deal with something like that. And he has a projectile, which is nice. Not the best, but, he can get it for some nice edge guarding to steal someone's jump. Or there are also some really wonky, specific, small, minute microspacing things you can do against certain projectiles and moving hitboxes on things. Especially when opponents have items like, say, such as a fire hydrant, or Lloyd Rocket is another one that it can kind of manipulate with as well, which can be quite fun and great. And he has a reflector, so he can deal out projectiles and he can kind of deal with them, but neither of them are really fantastic. His projectile isn't Mario Fireball, isn't Sheik Needles, but at the same time, it's not like, Falco Laser, which, a lot of people wish was better than it was, and, especially, when it comes to maintaining and solidifying the neutral. But, he can do some things with it, and his orbiters are nice, has pretty good invincibility on most of his characters. Not going to protect him at all. It's not going to be as good as some other iframe abilities out there, but at the same time can still find some use. You can push people with that push box as well as reflect, and you'll see me using that to my advantage in some of these other games. But Pit is kind of a nice, quick, fun all-around character to play with. He has some strengths in some early combos. They aren't true combos. You can air dodge out of a lot of them. You can jump out of a lot of them. And when they are true, or, most likely gonna hit, unless, you're just really missing the mark on what your opponent's habits are, the percentage is still going to be a very small window. You can get, you have the forward throw to dash attack at like 0. You have the down throw to up smash at 0 to like 3% or 4%, depending on the weight and fall speed of the character. But that also isn't the maximized combo. You can get down throw to down air to neutral air, but your opponent can jump out of that. They can also air dodge. Neutral air is his fastest move, but its hitbox isn't as good as it looks. It's pretty decent. You can trap some landings, and it has quite a few more active frames out there compared to many other neutral airs out there, but it's not as good as it looks. You can still air dodge throughout the entire animation of Nair. Pit works relatively well on all stages, so like he doesn't have particularly weak stages, but he also doesn't have particularly strong stages. Tri-platforms can really help him, especially with the use of his up air. If you fast fall an up air, you could set your opponent up. If they miss the tech, you can get a fast fall up air to reset, and then up smash is guaranteed in those instances. And also, those platforms give him and his multi-jumps a lot more options in the recovery match, so you don't have to, worry about your up special all that much. But, he has some strengths. He can kill with back air. He can kill with up smash to trap landings. He's got that side B. Dark Pit as well. Obviously, all of this translates to Dark Pit because they're basically the same character. They have 3 big differences. The side B the arrows and the the forward tilt. And Palutena, you may have given me my wings, but I'm going to send you the pits of hell right there. And so the matchup is like kind of similar to Marth Lucina in like who you want to use for like Pit or Dark Pit. It, for the most part, doesn't matter all that much. You can argue that like Dark Pit would be better in these matchups, and obviously I think Dark Pit is more useful in doubles. That's why you'll see like, you know, for like the 2 Pit players in the world, a lot of them, if they do play doubles, they'll play Dark Pit a majority of the time, because they aren't going to have the freedom to, you know, charge and use those arrows for, you know, damage off stage. And the side special is going to, you know, kill earlier in most respects. And of course that can deflect projectiles, you know, in certain cases as well. And that maybe that forward tilt isn't going to play as much because, you know, the spacing might not be as important as the kill potential is in doubles, as we all know how, you know, certain characters are just more viable in doubles because they have a ton of power and their weaknesses are sort of lessened because of, you know, the format and the fact that you have a teammate that can help you set up combos, or, you know, help you when you're getting gimped off stage potentially, as this, you know, Ness is trying to fare me out of existence. But while, you know, Pit has, you know, some pretty decent strengths, while he's not difficult to pick up, that's also kind of his main weakness, and why you don't really see almost any Pits at all at the highest, or, you know, even like mid levels of competitive play, even though nobody considers Pit or Dark Pit to be, you know, a bottom tier character or one of the worst characters in the game. Everyone can see that he has those uses. He doesn't have huge glaring weaknesses that just make him useless in certain matchups or things like that. And we get the Ness off stage, and you know what we're all about. We're going to push him out of there with those Guardian Orbiters. And so the reason we don't see so many Pits, like, I mean, obviously the best Pit in the world is Earth from Japan. And, you know, he would consistently be top 8 in every single tournament that he, you know, almost ever went in, even, you know, in American tournaments. But, you know, it was usually, you know, 7th or 8th place. You know, he has definitely won some tournaments in Japan, and he's taken out, you know, some really strong players. But Pit as a character, because he doesn't have a ton to offer, because he relies a lot on reads and trapping, and get out of here, Mario, get dunked. The reason why he, you know, he has to punish your landings and, you know, have consistent ways of trapping your opponents in, you know, bad habits, bad landings, you know, continually to get them off stage. You know, use your arrows, go for the, you know, fair, which is out there for a little bit. It's just so inconsistent, so that's why you don't see a lot of Pit players or Dark Pit players out there, and the ones that you do aren't going to be, you know, guaranteed winners, or, you know, even making it deep into bracket, just because his strengths aren't that good. You know, his combo game, he has sums, but most of them are not true, and the ones that are only going to be there at a few percents. And in order to make those things true, you're going to have to, you know, really have a read on what your opponent is able to do to escape, and what kind of frame data their attacks have, because, you know, have a character like Mario, snipe him out of the double jump right there, get those edge guards on the DL with the Mario. The Pit is just, his strengths are just not that strong. His weaknesses aren't that weak, but you see characters that are considered a lower tier than Pit or Dark Pit, but they'll have, you know, maybe some better results, and maybe they're obviously going to be inconsistent too, or be really bad in certain matchups where Pit isn't. But though when they're going to go off, they're really going to go, and when Pit goes off, it's not really sustainable. So he is a pretty fun character to play, and he is pretty decent in certain matchups. Like, I think he does relatively well against Ness and Lucas. Obviously, you know, you can edge guard them pretty well with the arrows and the orbiters, and you can, you know, footstool them and put them below the Pinecone zone, or, you know, footstool them or something like that. Characters that are really vulnerable in their recoveries, that can't do much out of shield because Pitt's grab game is pretty decent. You know, his standing grab and his dash grab, you know, just as fast as Mario's. They don't have quite the range that you would want them to. You know, he's no Captain Falcon or anything like that. He doesn't have the speed of Sheik to really get in. You know, he can't break zones fairly well, even though he does have a projectile. You know, it's got some, you know, it's cooldown and isn't fantastic, and some of his tools are kind of like unsafe to go in, while like, you know, side B is, you know, pretty good option to, you know, kill at, you know, not even very high percents. You know, I think it start killing, you know, 80, 90, depending if it's Pit or Dark Pit and where the blast zones are, you know, what stage you're on. But, and, you know, obviously the recovery of your character, so, you know, like Dark Pit is going to be a little bit better against, you know, Mac in certain instances because of that horizontal knockback, where at the same time, Pit's arrows are going to be more positive in that matchup when it comes to the edge guarding as well. So while most of the time, kind of like with Marth Lucina, as I mentioned before, how, you know, Marth's going to be the best in the majority of cases, even if you think Lucina might be the best, you're probably still best sticking with Marth. Well, Pit and Dark Pit is kind of the same. The forward tilt is such a good move with Pit, and it can kill. It's a great spacing tool, relatively fast, very good out of pivot to mix up when you're going to go in for a dash grab, or, you know, try to hop in with an aerial or something like that. So he's got pretty decent mix-up, so you have to have a really good footsies game with Pit in order to maximize the neutral, and that's kind of where Pit shines. When he has stage control and he's winning the neutral, if he's catching the landings, continuing the opponent to be forced off stage, he can't do a ton at the ledge. He can really get you going if you're off stage. But if you can get those re-grabs, he can almost seem pretty suffocating. But like I said, you're going to be not very consistent at pulling that off against a myriad of players and characters out there. So he's about as middle of the road as you can get, but that comes with just as many downsides as it does upsides. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of big examples out there of how to play Pit very well. You could say, well, maybe the meta isn't super developed. Well, some characters just don't have a lot of a meta game to develop. You know, Pit has some really good tools. He can do some frame traps. He's really good at conditioning opponents on how they land, and the up smash is a big threat. And you can also get the forward smash working in there, working the forward tilt to punish, re-grab landings, try to catch some air dodges with a falling up air or a neutral air, or, you know, pretty good tomahawk grab game as well. You know, he doesn't have great range. He doesn't have a great projectile, but he has some range and he has some projectile. So he's going to have certain things in his arsenal that are going to be applicable, but it's the inconsistency is what really shies people away from picking up Pit. So no one thinks he's a terrible character, but he definitely doesn't have big potential to be consistent at a high level. And I think we see that because there aren't that many Pit players out there, even though he's rated as a pretty decent character and maybe the most middle of the tier list as you can get. So I don't think Pit is going to be the character for me because the skill that is required, the conditioning, I'm just not up to snuff with that kind of stuff. So maybe looking for a character with a little bit more upside.